Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our Midnight News Bulletin, brought to you live from Algiers, and here are your top stories. The Zionist occupation has committed 10 new massacres against families in the Gaza Strip, leaving 97 martyrs and 123 injured during the past 24 hours. Also coming up, senior Hamas official Osama Hamdan said that any exchange of Palestinian prisoners and Zionist hostages in Gaza would only be considered after a ceasefire. Algerian President Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune congratulated his Mauritanian counterpart Mohamed Ould Sheikh Al Ghazouani on joining the Gas Exporting Countries Forum via phone call. Hello and welcome again to the program. At the outset, Palestinian Health Ministry in Gaza said on Tuesday that the occupation committed 10 massacres against families in the Gaza Strip, leaving 97 martyrs and 123 injured during the past 24 hours. The Ministry of Health added that the death toll from the Zionist aggression has risen to 30,631 martyrs, and more than 72,000 have been injured since the 7th of last October. The Palestinian government media office in Gaza said that the occupation army's targeting of Palestinian civilians with live bullets while they arrived at the Kuwait roundabout to obtain flour and food aid is deeply troubling, and also represents the unwillingness of the occupation to end this humanitarian catastrophe. For its part, Palestinian civil defense spokesman in the Gaza Strip emphasized that the occupation army repeatedly targets those seeking aid whenever trucks of relief materials arrive in the Strip. UN Palestinian Refugee Aid Agency Chief Philippe Lazzarini warned that dismantling UNRWA would sacrifice an entire generation of children. UNRWA employs 13,000 people in Gaza, running schools, healthcare clinics, and other social services and distributing humanitarian aid. The United Nations has said some 3,000 people are currently still working to deliver aid in Gaza, where 1/4 of the population is one step away from famine.
That the attempt to eliminate UNRWA are not just based on neutrality breaches of some of the staff, but in reality has a much broader political objective behind it, which in a certain extent is to eliminate the status of refugees and make sure that this is not part of a final political settlement.
In the latest developments, the Cairo talks aimed at establishing a humanitarian truce in Gaza before Ramadan concluded without reaching a ceasefire. The Hamas movement in discussions with mediators attributed the faltering agreements to the absence of the Zionist entity from the Cairo round, where Hamas presented its proposal within the framework of the humanitarian truce. Husam Berkan.
The Gaza ceasefire barely receives mention as the Cairo talks result in a stumbling block for the Palestinian resistance movement, forcing them to bear the burden on the Zionist side. The discussions, aimed at stopping aggression on the Gaza Strip, took place just days before the month of Ramadan. Following the presentation of its proposal in Cairo, the movement now finds itself in the cross-chair of the American ally after presenting its proposal in Cairo.
The movement presented its proposal for ceasefire agreement to the mediators within 2 days of talks, and it's now waiting a response from the Israelis who were absent from this round. Netanyahu does not want an agreement, and the ball is in the Americans' court to pressure him to reach an agreement.
A Reuters source revealed the Zionist entity's boycott of talks due to Hamas' refusal to submit a list containing the names of all its living prisoners. Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden committed to continuing efforts for a Gaza ceasefire for at least 6 weeks, with hopes to increase aid flow before the month of Ramadan.
Currently, Israel remains unconvinced about pursuing a truce. It seems to be focused on public relations to avoid confrontation with regional mediators and prevent negotiation failures from within. At present, there is an American desire and interest for the war not to persist into the month of Ramadan. It's crucial to note that the entity cannot sustain this war without American support, meaning that it's more of an American war than exclusively a Zionist one.
The American position, seemingly addressing the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, is scrutinized within the electoral process, attempting to absorb dissent while maintaining absolute support for the Zionist entity. This stable position, prioritizing occupier interests above international humanitarian laws, is evident in the tragic toll of 30,000 martyrs in Gaza.
Senior Hamas official Osama Hamdan stated on Tuesday that any exchange of Palestinian prisoners and Zionist hostages in Gaza would only be considered after a ceasefire. This announcement came during the ongoing ceasefire talks in Cairo involving Hamas, Egypt, and Qatar, showing no signs of a breakthrough. Hamdan, addressing a press conference in Beirut, reiterated Hamas's conditions for a potential agreement, which includes ending the Zionist military offensive, withdrawing forces from the Gaza Strip, and facilitating the return of displaced Palestinians to their homes.
نجدد التأكيد أن ما فشل العدو في تحقيقه.
We reiterate that what the enemy failed to achieve on the battlefield, he will not achieve at the negotiating table. The security and safety of our people will not be achieved except with a permanent ceasefire, the end of the aggression, and the withdrawal of the enemy from every inch of the Gaza Strip. Providing urgent and appropriate shelter and bringing aid to our people in Gaza is our top priority, and any exchange of prisoners cannot take place before all this is achieved.
Hamas rejected a UN report alleging sexual violence by Palestinian militants on October 7th, dismissing the findings as false claims. According to Hamas, the report by UN Special Representative Pramila Patten did not document testimony from the claimed victims.
Found that there are reasonable grounds to believe that conflict-related sexual violence, including rape.
The Secretary General of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, Hussein Ibrahim Taha, urged all countries to exert all forms of pressure on the occupation to stop the genocide it is committing against the Palestinian people, renewing the call for an immediate humanitarian truce that leads to a ceasefire, while denouncing the United States' use of its veto power in the Security Council more than once against it. In his speech during the extraordinary meeting of the Council of Foreign Ministers of the member states of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, Taha stressed that the organization stands with the Palestinian people in obtaining their full legitimate rights, including the establishment of their independent state with Al-Quds as its capital.
We urge all the countries to use this kind of influence to put pressure on the Israeli occupation to bring it to fully and immediately comply with the decisions of the International Court of Justice, providing for stopping further genocide committed against the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip. We also call to enforce the international penal law in order to hold Israel accountable for all the crimes it has committed across the entire occupied Palestinian territories.
Palestinian Foreign Minister Riyad al-Maliki called on member states of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation to inform what he described as countries complicit with the Zionist occupation that their interests and relations with the Islamic world are at stake if they continue to support it. In his speech during the extraordinary meeting of the Council of Foreign Ministers of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation Countries held in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, al-Maliki stressed that the destructive plans of the occupation will allow the rule of violence and brutality to prevail over the rule of law and humanity, as he put it.
We call on you all to use all the means available to us to stop the genocide. We have the power and the influence to make this continuous genocide something that we cannot morally, politically, or financially defend for the countries which continue to empower and support this barbaric war. The trade and military agreements and others is an influence available to you, and the countries which are accomplices in this genocide should understand that their interests and relations with Islamic countries are at stake. We urge you to work with the friends and allies throughout the world, especially in the countries of the South, to coordinate this type of actions in order to expand the scope of diplomatic and financial repercussions.
Algerian Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf stressed that the seriousness of the current situation in Gaza requires raising the ceiling of collective positions and supporting them with measures and initiatives that respond to the Palestinians' calls for help. Attaf, in his speech during the extraordinary meeting of the Council of Foreign Ministers of the member states of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, stressed the necessity in actual effective action to intensify pressure on the Israeli occupation to stop the means of coercion.
إن خطورة الظرف الحالي في غزة تفرض علينا الارتقاء.
The seriousness of the current situation in Gaza requires us to raise the ceiling of our collective positions and support them with actions, measures, and initiatives that respond to the appeals of our Palestinian brothers. It is high time to realize that expressions of condemnation and denunciation alone will not stop the genocide and systematically liquidation being perpetrated in the Gaza Strip. The seriousness of the current situation in Gaza requires us to raise the ceiling of our collective positions and support them with actions, measures, and initiatives that respond to the appeals of our Palestinian brothers. It is high time to realize that expressions of condemnation and denunciation alone will not stop the genocide and systematic liquidation being perpetrated in the Gaza Strip. What is required, first, is actual and effective action at all levels available to us to intensify pressure on the Israeli occupation and thwart its tyranny and barbarism against the weak and innocent. It was supposed, expected, and hoped that the area of accountability, responsibility, and punishment of the Israeli occupier would begin here, with our will, our commitment, and our actions.
The Algerian Foreign Minister emphasized the need to bolster previous actions taken before international courts and supplement them with further endeavors at the United Nations General Assembly. These efforts should aim to secure solid punitive measures that eliminate the immunity given to the occupying force, underlining the importance of striving to reinforce the two-state solution. Let's take a listen.
أما المطلوب ثانياً فهو تعزيز الخطوات المتخذة.
Secondly, what is required is to strengthen the steps taken before international judicial bodies and support them with additional efforts before the United Nations General Assembly to adopt firm punitive measures that put a final end to the unfair exceptions, preferences, segregations and privileges from which the Israeli occupation has always benefited exclusively over the other members of the international community. Thirdly and finally, what is required is to strengthen the two-state solution by seeking to expand the basis of official recognition of the State of Palestine.
Algerian Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf, accompanied by the Secretary General of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, Hussein Ibrahim Taha, discussed ways for Islamic countries to intensify their efforts in order to stop the Israeli aggression on the Gaza Strip. This came during the talks held between Minister Attaf with Ibrahim Taha within the framework of his participation in the extraordinary meeting of the Council of Foreign Ministers of Member States of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. In Jeddah, the Algerian Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf held a bilateral meeting with his Palestinian counterpart Riyad al-Maliki. The goal of the meeting, according to a statement from the Algerian Foreign Ministry, was to discuss and coordinate the next steps in Algeria's diplomatic efforts and initiatives in the UN Security Council in order to put an end to the Israeli aggression against the Palestinian people, to protect Palestinian civilians as needed, to facilitate humanitarian relief efforts in the Gaza Strip, and work to reaffirm the international community's commitment to upholding the fundamentals of an independent and sovereign Palestinian state. Hezbollah declared it targeted a mechanized Zionist military force at the Birkat Risha outpost in the south with a missile strike. The attack achieved a direct hit, causing damage and starting a fire. Reports from Zionist media noted rocket sirens sounding in occupied territory with an anti-tank missile landing in the region of the Upper Galilee. In other developments, Algerian President Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune congratulated his Mauritanian counterpart, Mohamed Ould Cheikh Al Ghazouani, on joining the Gas Exporting Countries Forum via phone call and expressed gratitude for their distinguished presence at the 7th summit of the GECF, according to a statement by the Algerian presidency. The same source mentioned that President Tebboune informed his Mauritanian counterpart about the tripartite Maghreb meeting, which brought together Algeria, Tunisia, and Libya's presidents after Algeria hosted the 7th summit of the Gas Exporting Countries Forum. Algerian Minister of Trade and Export Promotion Tayyip Zitouni, accompanied by the Mauritanian Minister of Trade, Handicrafts and Tourism, Lambert Wilbanahi, supervised the opening of the 12th edition of Al Mughar International Fair in the Algerian southern province of Tindouf, a ceremony that was also attended by the Sahrawi Minister of Trade, Ahmed Bishr Ammi Ammar. In a statement during the exhibition ceremony, Algerian Trade Minister Zitouni confirmed that the event is an opportunity to strengthen ties between the peoples of the region.
Trade exchanges between Algeria and Mauritania recorded over the last 11 months of 2023 their highest value in many years, as they reached $414 million after recording in 2022 $227 million, thus recording an increase of 82%. As part of our redoubled efforts to enhance bilateral trade between Algeria and Mauritania, we attach great importance to organizing trade and economic exhibitions as well as businessmen forums.
General Saeed Shengrihat, Chief of Staff of the People's National Army, was received by Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani, the personal representative of the Emir of the State of Qatar. The reception occurred on the third day of General Shengrihat's official visit to Qatar, participating in the 8th edition of the Doha International Maritime Defense Exhibition and Conference 2024. Algerian Minister of Foreign Affairs and the National Community Abroad, Ahmed Attaf, has received a phone call on Tuesday from his Romanian counterpart, Luminita Teodora Odobescu. A statement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the National Community Abroad said the discussion focused on the state of relations between Algeria and Romania, where both sides expressed satisfaction with the progress of bilateral cooperation. The statement added that both ministers also addressed international and regional issues of common interest, particularly the security situation in the Sahel region. The opening of the second British international school, known as the British Campus Algeria, was announced by the founder and CEO of British Campus Algeria, Lutfi Ghazi, along with the ambassador of the UK, Sharon Ann Wardle, at the British Embassy of Algeria. The move represents a significant milestone in the collaboration between the UK and Algeria. The British Campus Algeria CEO held a sign-in ceremony with partners supporting this project, in which he emphasized that the school's curriculum will be powered by Pearson Education and managed by Cambridge Worldwide Academy. He also highlighted that under the esteemed agreement between the UK and Algeria, British Campus Algeria strives to provide an exceptional education experience for learners.
This project is aimed not just to give a British curriculum. This project also is based to have everything that's innovative in terms of education, whereas education today at the international level. So the school will see its opening this year, so it will be from early years all the way to A level for the examination. We will have the official opening, inshallah, after Ramadan. So we will announce it on the website. Our website is britishcampus.com, so it's British Campus Algeria.
In the same lines of thoughts, UK's ambassador to Algiers, Sharon Ann Wardle, said the opening of this school is a significant step towards President Abdelmajid Tebboun's vision of prioritizing the teaching of the English language in Algeria. Let's take a listen.
For me, I think this is a testament to just how much Algeria and Algerians value education. We're already seeing huge growth in the interest for the study of English language, something that the President Tebboune has been championing and which has been rolled out within primary schools, but is also increasingly being rolled out as a format for education, for tuition at higher education establishments.
And as part of the African Union and UNESCO summit taking place in Yaoundé, capital of Cameroon, African youth competence glows as young participation have brought to light its knowledge and its willingness, as well as determination in tracking the way into success in the field of artificial intelligence. More details with Al24 News envoy to Cameroon, Oussama Ayadi.
The ongoing African Union and UNESCO summit has become a vibrant showcase of the remarkable competence of African youth in the dynamic field of artificial intelligence. At the forefront of this display is Artificial Intelligence Cameroon, a non-governmental organization that has emerged as a shining beacon of innovation and progress in AI across the continent.
Our organization, Artificial Intelligence Cameroon, is a grouping of passionates of artificial intelligence and experts of artificial intelligence from all over the 10 regions of Cameroon. So we have developers, we have lecturers, we have researchers. So all these brains come together and their work is quite simple. We are supposed to make sure that we help government design policies, AI-oriented policies. So that's the main role, or that's the main objective behind the creation of the Cameroon Society of Artificial Intelligence.
Artificial Intelligence Cameroon stands out for its comprehensive approach to AI solutions, offering a wide array of cutting-edge services.
What we are doing is that we collect local data, and with our high precision equipment, that's going to help those researchers to build local solutions based on local data.
The organization is deeply invested in training programs and supports initiatives designed to empower young Africans with the skills and knowledge needed to excel in AI-driven industries. The organization is also actively engaging in the development of AI-related policies and regulations.
Definitely the major service is that we assist government in designing policies. First of all, we assist companies in creating AI projects, AI solutions. And we also make sure that we train people who are in need of maybe know how to use ChatGPT. We give them, we help them with training.
Through initiatives like Artificial Intelligence Cameroon and other innovative projects, African youth are showcasing their ability to harness the power of technology for the advancement of their communities and the continent as a whole.
Voters in 16 U.S. states and 1 U.S. territory are choosing their presidential candidates in primaries on Tuesday, as the country once again observes the quadrennial tradition of Super Tuesday. Nabil Khazini.
It is the day called Super Tuesday, the biggest day so far in this year's U.S. presidential race for the White House. Americans in 16 states and 1 U.S. territory are heading to the polls to choose their presidential candidate.
We need changes all over. We need somebody to look out for the peoples, not the parties. See, they done got hooked up on the parties, Republican Party, the Democratic Party. What about the nation?
Tense. You know, it's Biden versus Trump again. I didn't realize, and I'm sure a lot of people didn't, that it would come down to this again. But we kind of saw this in 2020, and it can, how things will turn, we don't know. I don't think anything is set in stone yet. I don't think it's a slam dunk for any party. But that's why it makes it kind of tense. It makes it kind of nervous. So I'm tense. I'm tense, if I'm being honest.
The results on Super Tuesday are therefore a strong indicator of the likely eventual presidential nominee of each political party. But both sides, the Democrats and the Republicans, already have a clear sense of who their nominees will be.
Well, thank you very much. I want to start by thanking the Supreme Court.
Happy for the last decision by the Supreme Court, which ruled he must stay on ballot in Colorado.
And I think it will go a long way toward bringing our country together.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump is expected to take the lead in the Republican race against his only opponent, Nikki Haley.
Poll numbers, the last 5 polls, you guys don't report. I'm winning 5.
Trump's potential biggest rival in 2024 presidential election, Joe Biden, is expected to easily win Tuesday's Democratic contests. The campaign and the race to dwell the White House will go on, with the remaining states continuing to hold primaries over the next several months.
Our broadcast has come to an end. Thank you for joining us and have a good night.